Good evening and welcome. This webinar will have Spanish and ASL interpretations, and Korean closed captions are available. For directions on interpretation, I will hand over to Maria and Claudia.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. We will be providing interpretation at today's session. I will be making this announcement in English and Spanish. Bienvenidos, proporcionaremos interpretación en la sesión de hoy. Anunciaré este mensaje en inglés y en español. We invite everyone to please select English if you have limited Spanish proficiency. This way you will be able to hear the interpreters from Spanish into English. Shortly you will see a globe sign at the bottom of your screen. Go ahead and click and select the English channel if you are an English speaker. This is for the presenters. Please remember to speak at a moderate pace because we do use 30% more words in Spanish. If you're on a computer at the bottom, you will see a globe that says interpretation. Put a check mark on your preferred language. If you are on your cell phone or tablet, locate the three dots. Go ahead and tap lightly and put a check mark on your preferred language. And be sure to click done in order to activate and begin the interpretation. Les invitamos a todos a seleccionar el español si está limitado en su dominio de inglés. De esta manera puede escuchar a las intérpretes del inglés al español. Si está en su computadora, hay un globo terráqueo en la parte inferior de su pantalla que dice Interpretación, donde podrá seleccionar Español. Selecciónelo al poner una palomita. Si está usando su celular o tableta, ubique y toque tres puntitos ligeramente y ponga una palomita en español y seleccione Done o Finalizar. Este último paso es muy importante para activar la interpretación. Muchas gracias. Estamos a sus órdenes. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you. And for Korean instructions.
오케이, 다 화면 아래에 보시면 CC라고 하얀색 박스 안에 CC라고 써 있고 show caption이라고 써 있는데요. 그 안에 그것을 클릭하시고 위쪽 화살표 아이콘을 클릭합니다. 그리고 그 스피킹 랭귀지 말하기를 클릭을 하시면 그 다음에 해당 언어인 한국어를 선택을 하시면 되고요. 그 다음에 저장을 하시고 클릭합니다. 그리고 지금 하시는 모든 대화의 내용이 모든 참가자에게 선택한 언어의 캡션으로 기록됩니다.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Good evening, and thank you for being with us this evening. We are excited to host this super important conversation about the state of education in Los Angeles. LA Unified, or LAUSD, is what we will be referring to the school district as. My name is Elmer Roldan. I'm the Executive Director of Communities in Schools of Los Angeles. We're an organization that works in partnership with 15 LA Unified schools to provide students with social emotional learning and academic support to make sure that they have what they need in order to be successful in school. LA Unified, as you all know, is the second largest school district in the nation. It's responsible for educating about 420,000 students in 1,300 schools. And there are also 110,000 roughly students attending charter schools that fall under the jurisdiction of LA Unified. Of the top 3 school districts in the nation, LAUSD is the only one that has an elected school board, which is or the Board of Education. And the school board has 3 primary functions. Number 1, it approves policy. Number 2, it approves an annual operating budget for the district of $10 billion. And it also hires, evaluates, and if necessary, fires the superintendent. So it makes sense that the school board plays a vital role within our community to ensure the educational success of all kids attending the school district. There are many voices that the school board has to listen to every day, and when it makes decisions. So the forum is organized by community groups that serve students, families, and educators in some of LAUSD's poorest communities. In fact, much of the progress that LAUSD has made over the last 25 years is largely due to activism of community members demanding more for students of color. Our goal tonight is to hear from each of the candidates, to learn about their plan to support our schools and to elevate our voices so whoever gets elected puts the needs of our students first. Before we get this show started, we want to acknowledge and thank all the organizations who planned this event. It is the first of 3 in this series of forums that we are planning, and we are especially grateful to the lead partners in this effort. Along with Communities in Schools of Los Angeles, we have Alliance for a Better Community, Innovate Public Schools, and to our planning committee members who worked extremely hard to make these forums possible, to Community Coalition, Diversity and Leadership Institute, the Education Leaders of Color, Inner City Struggle, the Coalition for Excellent Public Schools, Parent Institute for Quality Education, and the Partnership for Los Angeles Schools. And now it is my honor to welcome tonight's moderator, Tanya Kraft Perry. Thank you.
Good evening. I will be the moderator for tonight's forum. As he stated, my name is Tanya Kraft Perry, and in addition to being a dedicated wife and mother of 3, I am a parent leader on the state leader board with Innovate Public Schools and a member of the Family Engagement Committee with National PTA. I truly appreciate the privilege of serving as your moderator for this evening. Thanks to everyone for joining us this evening. It is a true testament to your dedication and investment in our public school system. Before we begin, I will share some housekeeping rules to ensure that candidates are clear about how this forum will flow. Tonight's questions have been prepared by the event organizers, parents, and students. Additional questions may be submitted by audience members in writing through the chat function during the forum. Those questions will be sorted and reviewed to ensure relevancy and to prevent partisanship or repetition. We will get to as many audience questions as time allows. The candidates will have 2 minutes each to introduce themselves. They will go in alphabetical order by last name. Candidates will provide closing statements later in the program. We will go in reverse for that round. So the candidate who introduces themselves last will go first during the closing. For the questions portion of our forum, I will sort the order to keep this forum interesting. So enjoy. Candidates will be given equal time to respond to questions, 1 minute, 30 seconds each. Candidates will be given equal time for rebuttals, if any. A timer will indicate when your time is up. So let's make sure we're paying attention to that. The moderator will have the option to continue a discussion on a particular issue if the dialogue so warrants. A note to the candidates that personal attacks are not permitted. Let me repeat myself. I will not allow any personal attacks, and you will receive a warning if you break this rule. If any candidate chooses to disregard this rule, we may turn off your mic and camera. We beg you to stick to these issues. These questions have not been shared with any candidate before the forum. We have 5 of 7 candidates running for Board District 1 with us this evening. Thank you for accepting our invitation and for sharing your vision for LA Unified with our audience. One last request to our candidates. Please slow down your delivery to enable our interpreters to properly translate your message. Now, let's meet these candidates. We have a lot we want to talk about. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions. We will begin with Mr. Khalid Al-Ali. Mr. Khalid Al-Alim, are you present? Okay, there may be some technical difficulties. We'll move on to the next one. Mr. John Brassfield, the floor is yours.
Hi, I'm just introducing myself. I'm John Brassfield, John Aaron Brassfield, running for School Board District 1 like everybody knows. My experience in education spans about 27 years professionally, and then also grew up in LAUSD schools. I study school counseling. That's what I think the district needs a lot of, as far as like mending relationships with constituents, and also through the tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 environment within the school culture and climax. I worked in the business reviews for a Fortune 500 company, and I think that will do dividends as far as like with the logistics of everything we're doing within the system within LAUSD. A lot of things have been happening as far as like the Step Up program within recent years, and also providing educational classes for classified staff to be empowered. I feel like certificated and classified can come together along with parents and the PTA, and we can do a lot of different divine things within the district, and creating a holistic environment that will continue to enrich the students' lives. And with the way education is going, we need someone that's going to step up for education, speak up on education, and create a platform that education is going to be respected. It's a person I studied, Mr. Robertson. I look at different education from different platforms. I believe in the United Kingdom, talked about education is best seen of how it treats its educators. So the teachers, the workers, everyday workers that are there every day too. So my thing is empowering everybody through the lens of the youth.
Wonderful.
Thank you for your time, John Brassfield. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now continue with Mr. Christian Flagg.
Hey, good evening, folks. I'm not able to start my video currently. Oh, there we go. All right. Good evening, everybody. My name is Christian Flagg, born and raised in South Central Los Angeles. Spent my whole K through 12 journey in LAUSD and in District 1, in fact. I'm a proud husband, father of 5. Me and my wife were fortunate to actually meet in junior high school while going to school at Audubon Middle School. And yeah, I've been doing education work for now 12 years, all of which has been deeply rooted in the community. I've worked at community-based nonprofits to particularly serve the unique needs of historically Black and Brown communities, right? Really supporting the college going matriculation of young people, right? Doing some academic counseling and youth development work in general. Across those 12 years, I moved into the curriculum development, right? Program coordination to where now at Community Coalition, I've served as the director of training, where I continue to direct and lead youth engagement, youth leadership development programs. But more importantly, policy advocacy work, right? Education justice work, really committed to bringing the voices of our community to the fore to actually transform the district. One of which I'm proud to say, we've been very monumental in the work around the Black Student Achievement Plan and the decriminalization of youth in LAUSD, as well as massive investments in the equitable spending of the district's budget. So I'll definitely speak more to those things in a minute, but thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Mr. Christian Flagg. We'll now move on to Miss Charlotte Newbill.
Hello and good evening. My name is Charlotte Hendy Newville, as mentioned, and I am a proud immigrant daughter of parents who came to America with a dream and a vision of hard work and education. And so I started my journey at 24th Street School Elementary, and I graduated from Dorsey High School with an opportunity and a scholarship to go on to Xavier. However, I was faced with a great decision. My mom suddenly passed, and I had to make a decision whether I was going to go to college or I was going to stay behind. And so with the help of mentors at Dorsey High School, I went on to college and was successful enough to return with the opportunity to come back to Dorsey. And so I'm here because I am a candidate who has 25 years of education experience, serving in various capacities as a coach, a teacher, a department chair, district curriculum writer, a union vice chair for UTLA, athletic director, the dean of students, and now I currently hold a position as an education policy advisor for the current board member, Dr. George McKenna, in Board District 1. And so I'm also a parent of school-aged children who also attend school here in Board District 1. So I bring a wealth of experience and commitment as my very own children are affected by the decisions and the policies made by this board. And so it is with great pleasure to be here tonight to be able to share my vision and dream, an opportunity to serve and be the voice for those within Board District 1. Thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you so much. We will now finish with Dr. Dee Dee Watts.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dr. Dee Dee Watts, and I'm running for school board because I have a 2.5-year-old granddaughter, and I want her to be able to attend her neighborhood school and get a great education. I had to leave my neighborhood and attend a different school in order to get a great education. And I grew up in LA Unified. I attended LA Unified schools from kindergarten through 10th grade, and in second grade had to leave my neighborhood school. I had to make those very difficult decisions for my own children, 3 grown children now, who attended a mix of traditional district, charter, and private schools, because as a parent, I needed to find the school that was going to meet the needs of my children in order for them to receive the best education possible. I have been an educator for 27 years. I have served as a teacher starting at 93rd Street School, served as a teacher, school psychologist, special education administrator, school principal, and a nonprofit leader. I'm also a nonprofit co-founder, and I currently serve as the Chief of Staff to current board member Tanya Ortiz-Franklin on the LAUSD board. And my decision to run for school board, again, is rooted in wanting to make sure that our neighborhood schools are providing a quality education so that students don't have to leave their community in order to get that great education. My 3 grown children, as I said, attended a mix of schools, and 2 of my children currently work for the district, and my son works for a charter school, and they were able to make those choices because of the schools that they attended, because they were able to we were able to make the decisions as a family that would be best for them. And so I look forward to sharing my vision with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our candidates for your introductions. Now we will begin our Q&A. Our first question focuses on Black student achievement. Equity and achievement gaps at LAUSD are worse for Black students than any other racial student group. Community groups successfully push the district to invest in Black students and families at the height of the racial reckoning in the country with Black Lives Matter, leading the charge with LAUSD investing over $125 million. As a board member, what would you do to increase transparency, monitor progress, and work with the community to strengthen the implementation of the Black Student Achievement Plan, also known as BSAP? Candidates will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer questions. We will begin with Mr. Flagg.
All right, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so BSAP, how are we bringing more transparency? So I have served actually at the center of a lot of this work in my role at Community Coalition. And there's multiple things that needs to be done. Number one, from the outset, we actually embedded when the community wrote out the plan for BSAP, there's to be multiple bodies, the BSAP steering committee, right, and school site committees that are designed to actually oversee and provide that continuous oversight and input on how the resources and dollars are spent, how they name the different programs, the different support staff and personnel that are to come on. And in many ways, we have been pushing the district actually to have parents, students to be on the hiring panels for the different personnel, to be a part of the different bodies that even identify who is in the leadership positions at the central office level. So we've been pushing and working directly with superintendent, with administrative directors to do this. But as a board member, right, I would bring another level of urgency and commitment to making it happen. Because to this point, unfortunately, all of it has been optional in many ways.
Thank you so much, Mr. Flagg. We truly appreciate your thoughts. We will now move on to Ms. Newbill.
Thank you. So with BSAP as it is, it would have to be a constant within our board meetings so that it is reminded to all members and stakeholders that it is important that we are discussing the budget, we are discussing the outcomes of the set programs that are being implemented within the schools. Currently, at Board District 1, we are working to make sure that partnerships with the BSAP program are done in fidelity. And so that would be something that would be continued to make sure that the opportunities for businesses locally are getting the exposure and our students are getting their services. So that would be another way. But to constantly have BSAP attention, meaning that many of our programs that are funneling through, and the personnel with the BSAP program is always at the front of the table, meaning that they're an agenda item that is going to be discussed at our meetings, at our community of the whole meetings, so that we are constantly reminded that this is important and the work that is being done for these students are important, and the results of this work is important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Newbell. Now, Mr. Brassfield has the floor.
Yes. When I think about this question, I get excited. I get excited because it's a lot of opportunity for us to connect with the community, for us to empower the youth, for us to change the way the district and the fabric of the district looks. It looks like career planning. It looks like connecting. It looks like support. It looks like empowerment. And how can we make this empowerment? I will make it my life purpose to make sure the message is getting out. Now the policies, and we're talking about, we could write that too as well. I know people that can write amazing policies. My thing is the chairs, right? The chairs of all these committees, the parents being empowered to want to go and do more. How can we spark that interest? Because it's been so many people that come and talk, right? But to engage the whole community through the whole district, and I feel like BSAP will be a great opportunity to do empowerment with a lot of different ways, and it paints the picture of the district differently. And there's a lot of different shades of this color. So I'd love to see how it can be improved, and we can increase the dynamics by talking to the LOC, right? And also the people at the school in general, right? Because we have to talk to the local agencies and the schools, so we have to make sure they all connect. And that's my thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brassfield. And now finally, Dr. Dee Dee Watts.
Yes, so as a board member, to strengthen BSAP and to increase the transparency, one would be to require the regular updates on BSAP at our board meetings to make sure that we are addressing the social, emotional, and mental health needs of our students, as well as the academics, and how the programs that have been put in place are supporting the students. In addition to that, we would be working with our community partners who are providing some of the services and supports on our campuses. And in order to monitor, progress monitoring, that I think it would be important for us to make regular visits to go to see what is happening in action with our partners on the campuses. And then additionally, making sure that from the board level, we are expressing the commitment to ongoing funding for BSAP, right? To make sure that we are putting our money where we say we value, to ensure that our African-American students feel connected at school, and that they belong in that space, and that they are also academically and social emotionally prepared to be able to thrive when they go on. Bringing in our community partners also to make sure that we are connecting what they're doing with the updates that we're providing as well.
Thank you so much. I do want to give candidates a little bit more time in regards to Black student achievement. I heard a lot about monitoring progress, and I want to make sure that we are discussing the transparency portion. I saw that Dr. Dee Dee Watts was able to give us an idea of how transparency would be addressed. But for the other candidates, how would you address the transparency? Because that is a major issue for parents in LAUSD who want to see the BSAP thrive. And then also in strengthening these community connections, these community partners, how would you bring in more partners and ensure that the current connections that you have with these community partners will be upheld and championed in the district in terms of the Black Student Achievement Plan. I will go back to Ms. Newbill to begin with, and you will have 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Thank you. So as mentioned, with the partnerships that we do have, I think transparency is having the parents involved in the process, creating small councils, so to speak, to be able to vet through some of the issues that may arise, to be able to check into schools. Visiting campuses is an amazing tool to get feedback on what's happening and what is going on. And so we do have parent centers within our school sites, and those are great spaces in order to gather that information to make sure that there is a connection between the school site as well as the expectation that's been developed within the plan. And so that is a way. And then currently from the board is creating a newsletter where we're giving feedback to the schools from what we're learning from the schools. And so that's the best way in order for us to show transparency of what's going on with the BSAP program. And I'm not sure if that answered all the questions, but I think that's the best way we can do it. And to the question of partnerships, I mean, currently right now, BD1 has held informational sessions where we've brought partners in to make sure we're helping them with their scope of work and how to make sure that it's approved so that they can continue their service for the students.
Thank you so much. I will pass the floor to Mr. Brassfield.
Yes, transparency is very vital in the whole process. So with that being said, I'm a big person on creating events. I love events, and I know a lot of people that love events. So the main thing is with education and what we're doing, because I'm speaking from an educator too as well, and a classroom, like I don't like to like flabbergast what I'm saying about myself, but far as like analyzing the least restrictive environment for our students, right? And I speak from a lens of a special education teacher, a special education, a psychologist, a special education counselor, a counselor for everybody in general, and mainstreaming students that have been on the spectrum, not on the spectrum, and understanding those dynamics takes a certain kind of person. And since a majority of students happen to be from the Black and brown community in those programs, right? And analyzing both sectors, because it's students from all different backgrounds, I feel like I break that down a different kind of way, and I can help with the engagement of BSAP far as like with the community, and also support more people within the community through a lens of the events we do together, and making sure parents are aware of all the resources they have that they're not currently aware of, and also making sure we have meetings and continue to do what we need to do to empower.
Thank you. I will pass the floor to Dr. Dee Watts.
Thank you. Regarding the transparency issue, as I mentioned earlier, going to hold site visits to look at the program in action, it's really important for us to see how the implementation is actually impacting students on the campus. Beyond that, though, we have an opportunity with our Black family advisories to really make sure that we are sharing information widely. So making sure that the budget is available. So as we already meet with the BSAP steering committee to share information, we need to make sure that we're also sharing it with families, because we shouldn't be afraid of being held accountable for what we say we're going to do for our Black students specifically. And so really making sure that parents and the community, the greater community who are part of the advisory, are getting information specifically. And then again, in our board meetings, making sure that each of the updates are provided in a way that is meaningful and understandable for the greater public, because sometimes our budgets can be a bit challenging. When we think about bringing in our community partners, we have held an industry forum to share with partners how they can work with the district, but I think we can continue to host those and provide opportunities to expand our partnerships as well.
Thank you so much. And we will end with Mr. Flynn.
Yeah, so really we have to do the community organizing, right? We have to bring our partners to the table, but not to tell them how the district works, to hear how does the district has to actually change and make themselves more accessible to our community partners. We know that they do the work in the community and they've been successful, but how does the district, right, actually transform itself, right? Eliminate some of the bureaucracy that inhibits our community partners from actually contracting with us, to actually establishing those partnerships. So we have to be more self-reflective. And as a board member, right, I would push us to constantly revisit what is it that we're doing to best partner and support, as opposed to pushing these other organizations into changing, right? We also have to just provide more people to support our community partners. The procurement process, right? The way in which the district establishes contracts with organizations, it's a multi-month long process, right? One info session does not necessarily empower an organization that has never gone through this to be able to adequately do it, right? And we've done this work already to bring community partners to the table, but then their suggestions and recommendations aren't adopted. Lastly, I'll just say, or I guess I won't say.
Okay, thank you. But that does segue us into our second question, which does focus on contract procurement for community-based organizations. This school year, critical services were abruptly interrupted by LAUSD's procurement process. 40,000 students went weeks without academic services, social emotional support, after-school programs, and more. Changing the procurement rules confused school principals and community groups that deliver these services during and after school. Agencies that specialize in delivering services lost funding from LAUSD, resulting from the district's decision to change the procurement rules. Our question: how would you ensure that community organizations are treated as true partners by LAUSD, that contracts are protected, and that services are not interrupted for students and families in future years? Candidates will have 1 minute, 30 seconds to answer the question. We will begin with Mr. Brassfield.
When I think about that question, and as a board member, I think about making sure that everybody's on the same page. So making sure the transparency is always matched and being on the same page with everybody and making sure everybody knows what's expected. I feel like it's a certain policy we can create, far as like with a code of conduct, far as what we're doing business. Is certain things we're doing right now with different co-locations right now with Mrs. Goldberg. I looked at that too as well, and I like that. But my thing is with partners is that when we have a concrete example or a concrete thing we follow, it makes it more easier. And then when people can go and get the information, but not the information that they can't understand, the information that anybody can understand. It has to be simple as breaking it down like 1, 2, 3 and ABC. So I did my best to like learn all this like big information, right? So I like to be brutally honest with people. By being brutally honest, we can break down the dynamics of not only that contract, not only that partner, but we can see what the big big if, right? The big, what is it for? And then when we talk about our students and where they're going to go and the future of our students, it becomes a connection with them and us. So My thing is to make sure that our partners want to see the best for all our students.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Didi Watts.
So to ensure that our community organizations are treated as true partners, it means a mind shift change for the district as a whole, and to stop thinking about partners as vendors, but really thinking about partners coming alongside, because they are the community members whose children are in the schools and who we serve. And so really looking at how do we bring those community members and community-based organizations in to provide those services. So first is the mindset, but secondly, really making sure that our procurement teams are set up in a way where we're able to divide those community partners and everyone has a person to go to, so to speak, so that they are able to keep up to date with when their contract is expiring and making sure that they are set up for success so that we can review the policies and when contracts end to ensure that we don't have this service interruption. For example, if a contract is supposed to end in September, making sure that we have done the work to ensure that that partner is properly set up by the end of summer so that they're ready to go in August.
Thank you. We will continue with Mr. Christian Flagg.
Yeah, when it comes to this piece, it's multiple things. I spoke to just now in terms of partnership, we have to actually listen to them, right? In term, not just hearing what they say, but actually allow their input to inform decision making, to actually help to shape decision making in the district. Moreover, when it comes to contracts, we have to have do our due diligence in actually giving enough time for partners to adjust and adapt. As you mentioned, right? The decisions that happened just this past year in terms of the community partnerships and BSAP, that was a decision that was made instantaneously in a vacuum without consideration or notice to anyone outside of the superintendent's office and any other governing bodies, right? That type of things shouldn't happen, right? Particularly when you're looking to these organizations to supplement, complement the work that we're trying to do to actually empower our young people. And another thing, we have to look at the track record and history of organizations and their work in our district, right? If you have multiple years of service and exemplary work in the community, there should be different considerations for you as it pertains to ongoing and renewals and things of that nature.
Thank you so much. I see that Mr. Khalid Ali is with us now. I will restate the question just in case you did not hear before joining. How would you ensure that community organizations are treated as true partners by LAUSD, that contracts are protected, and that services are not interrupted for students and families in future years? You have 1 minute, 30 seconds to respond.
Thank you for that question, and I appreciate your time and consideration. One, the RFP process, the procurement process, and the memorandum of understanding process are not universally known with our community partners. So there must be an instructional, professional development way that's created so that those who want to do business with LAUSD are clear on the narratives that need to be taken care of so that they can actually provide the services. I happened to be on board when the Mises crisis happened, when the Chromebook crisis happened, and a lot of emphasis is placed on the purchasing of certain services and items from certain, let's say, special interest groups. And that's something that I would definitely take notice of, be more transparent, and make sure that in my particular position as a board member to have oversight over. I think it's just that simple. The community needs to know what services can be provided, who can provide them, and the district needs to be clear on how that is going to be done.
Thank you so much. With time to spare. And we will pass it to Miss Charlotte Newboom.
Thank you. With our procurement process, and it has been unfortunate that we did lose some contracts within the process, but to remedy this, I believe one of the things is having information so that we're all speaking the same language, so we all know what the expectations are for the contract holders. But then if we could expand, our procurement department would be awesome, because it's small, and to service such a large school district is a challenge. But yet having informational sessions, having follow-ups to those informational sessions so that they are speaking the same, so that when they come in with questions on how to follow through, how to get insurance, how to make sure their scope of work is matching what they're doing, so that we come back to make sure that they're giving the service in which they had deemed they wanted to do. And so I think it is an opportunity for us as a district to make sure that we're giving the information, that we're making it very clear what the expectations are on both sides, so that we can provide our students the services that they need. But then also, if we can expand our procurement department to be able to service in a timely manner, then we would be immaculate in what we do. But that's just the start.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I hear a common thread in your responses in regards to streamlining the process and providing stellar community partners special consideration. So I would like to focus a little bit more on that in a second round to answer. We'll begin with Mr. John Brassfield again, in regards to streamlining the process for procurement, and how would you ensure that community partners who are truly providing the services that the students need will have special consideration to ensure that there is no interruption of service?
So in order to ensure no interruption with any kind of service, just a reminder of what things need to be met, what benchmarks need to be met, a constant reminder. You have somebody on top of that. I believe it's 3 times you're supposed to remind somebody of something. I think emails work, calling, I think visits. We have a whole sector that we can do with that part in that process. And another thing is also making the community more active, right? We have second source information, right? But we like to have primary information, right? So by having the community involved, like we're doing this virtual platform right now, also it's opportunities where we do community outreach within that program. I believe Rancho, right there by Dorsey, had an event recently. It was a really big community well-being event. A lot of people came out, constituents from all areas came, and it was empowering, and they did a walk, right? And that walk talks about health, talks about what we're dealing with in our community, and that empowers. And by doing that, partners can meet right there, depending on when committees want to meet and different things like that. And we can get rooms for people to meet too as well. So getting things done within that kind of framework.
Okay, thank you so much. Dr. Watts.
When we have community partners that we've been working with for a while in the district, part of why they work so well is because there are evaluative processes in place. And I believe that when we enter into contracts with these community partners and we set up the scope of work, we also are setting up the evaluative tool that we'll use as a metric And that metric can then be used to determine that community partners' role or contract for the upcoming year. So we do have to make sure that there are certain regulations or rules that we follow with regard to the procurement process. But when we have in place that evaluative measure, it allows us to be able to say, yes, this partner has been providing services at a stellar level for, so many years or so many school years, and we can move them on to the next phase, whereas we may have some partners where it's not as clear. So the metric of evaluation is going to be, I think, the key in terms of how we make sure that there's no service interruption, because we have the metrics set in place at the beginning.
Thank you so much. Mr. Christian Flagg.
Yeah, so a couple of things come up for me with this. Number one, the website, right? The process in itself, the procurement website is like from the early 1990s, right? The links are all outdated. It's really hard to navigate. So just the way in which you actually go through certain phases, we can easily streamline just through the website, the way you use and submit documents, the way you verify certain documentation can easily be done through a much more efficient web application. Number one. Number two, in terms of continual contracts, I think kind of similar to what Dr. Watts raised, once you're evaluated and it's established that you've provided the service, you're meeting certain metrics, we can graduate toward multi-year contracts, right? Where we see, and this is something that comes up in various initiatives, kind of equity-based work, this notion of multi-year projections, so that schools aren't kind of working on this deficit-based model where it's like the bottom line, they're scared, are we going to have enough money to do such and such? No, we can provide multi-year projections. The district commits to certain dollars and pots that stay there for what it was stated to be, right? You can't just decide to move it away on a whim.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khalid Ali.
Thank you for the question. For me, it's simple. It has to be a high level of transparency and oversight. That's number one, first and foremost. And I come from a 15-year background in the community council system. So I've worked alongside our local, state, federal officials who also have the ability to provide a safety net for those services that are in jeopardy, or to help in bolster or enhance the services that are already being provided. Look, the local school sites, school site councils, the parent advisory committee, they are already pretty much versed on a lot of these issues that we're dealing with when we're trying to bring on community-based organizations to help supplement or just create new partnerships. And this is where I'm going to start, and this is where I want to be and have my focus primarily on, because there are effective community-based organizations out there, and there are safety nets that our legislatures can provide that will go ahead and make sure that once we understand what the procurement process is, once they understand what that procurement process is, they can navigate it to the point where there shouldn't be any fall offs of any services if we're serious about doing this work.
Thank you so much. And finally, Ms. Charlotte Newbill.
Thank you. So as mentioned, procurement, we need to be able to hire more. But I think the concern within BD1 is that the scope of work that we're asking or being provided has to be consistent. I think sometimes what has happened is that the provider comes under one umbrella and say, I want to provide this service. And then by the end of the year is providing a different service. And so unfortunately, now that we are kind of, lack of better word, we're cleaning up the process, right? We're coming in, making sure your scope of work matches in the beginning as the same as it does at the end. And so that there will be no interruption. However, there were some interruptions and changes within the law, right? There's in the law that you have to carry so much insurance if you're going to be face-to-face with students. And that kind of changed some long-time vendors, long-time contracts that we've had with community personnels, right, that were working with the district. And so with that being said, we need to make sure at the beginning, scope of work matches, your insurance matches, everything is matching, and that it stays consistent from the beginning of your contract until the end of your contract. And that we are making sure as board members following through with benchmark check-ins. So that will be my solution.
Thank you so much. We're going to shift gears now for our third question, which focuses on satisfaction with Superintendent Carvalho's performance. The school district has three main jobs: set district policy, approve LAUSD's $10 billion annual operating budget, and hire, evaluate, and if necessary, fire the superintendent. Our superintendent, Alberto Carvalho, has been serving LAUSD for the past 2 years. How would you grade the superintendent's performance, A to F? What have you identified as the top priority in the strategic plan? Candidates will have 1 minute, 30 seconds to respond. We'll begin with Dr. Didi Watts.
Okay, so yes, the superintendent has been here for 2 years, and it was kind of unheard of that the superintendent was unanimously selected among the board members at the time. When I'm asked the question of how I would rate his performance, I have to do it based on our equitable grading, as opposed to an A through F. I would say that he is approaching proficiency, and I say that because coming to Los Angeles from Miami is it's a different place. Learning how we are a coalition town and building community with our community partners and those who serve alongside us to make the change. The second part of your question, what have you identified as the top priority? My top priority is always going to be the learning of our students, the academics for our students. Now, recognizing that in order for our students to thrive academically, we have to attend to their social, emotional, and their mental health needs to make sure that they are able to thrive. So when we look at that, the first pillar of the strategic plan, that's where we have to place our focus, but we cannot leave the other areas untouched, because students will only be able to thrive if they are socially, emotionally, mentally supported. Their mental health is supported.
Thank you so
much. And
I'm
sorry, I didn't see the time. Something was covering the screen.
We will move on to Ms. Newbill.
Yes. So can you hear me? Yeah. As far as giving a grade, it's kind of hard. It's just a grade. However, I would say that because he is an educator and he's coming from the lens of education, we want to continue to see this play out. And I would hope that he would be here for the long haul, to be honest, because in order to see the changes that we need to see, we're going to have to see longevity with any leadership that we hold. And so with that being said, the strategic plan, obviously one is which is not clearly identified in resource and human resources and personnel to be stable within our schools, because that's very important, key to making sure that all the other benchmarks are met. Because often when the leadership shifts, so much other things shift as well. And so it's very important that that stays in place. And then I know one of the things that I would highlight within the strategic plan, in which we're all working across the country, is attendance. Attendance is one of the things that is so critical, and making sure that community members, as well as parents, as well as legislation, is working together to make sure that our parents feel that they can have monies or set-asides for their ability to have childcare in order for them to go to work, and they're not using their students for that service. So
Thank you so much.
yeah.
We will continue with Mr. Al-Ali.
Thank you for the question. Plain and simple, he has failed, and he has failed miserably. Look, academic achievement is the #1 priority of parents and community in LAUSD, period. And he's come here with an ideology from a state that primarily just drives Black and brown students, period, into the ground. It has nothing to do, his strategic plan has nothing to do with raising the quality and standard of the communities, let alone what's going on in our schools. So he fails on that. He fails miserably on transparency and accountability. You know, I know board members have been getting the budget reports, what, 3-4 days, maybe ahead of time before they need to vote on it. That's unacceptable. The Safe Passage program, which has been in effect since really 2020, is still being delayed and held back. And we look across the country and we see all these issues being dealt with in terms of the criminality of our children and academic success in our classrooms. I just left a classroom of an elementary school where they still do not know, after 3 years, their BSAP coordinator, or have had real hardcore discussions about how to move BSAP forward at their school. It's unacceptable. We've had reading programs. It's unacceptable.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ali. I'll give the floor to Mr. Christian Flagg.
Yeah, before I get started, the second part of the question, could you clarify, what have you identified as the top priority? Is it my top priority, or what do I see as his top priority?
What you have identified as the top priority in the strategic plan, you yourself.
For myself. So I see his strategic plan, and it's a top priority that I have within that. Okay. Oh, so time is going. So #1, I like Dr. Watts approaching proficiency. I'm gonna say on a D to a C, and that's 2-part. One, I see a way that he processes, right? He evidence-based, right? He looks to be methodical in the way he approaches things. He's thinking of a broader scope, right? Outside of just the local landscape, which is very important, right? In terms of, again, operating such a large institution. But very much so, he's done things in isolation. He's done things without transparency, and he's made unilateral decisions that have been very problematic, particularly things that have harmed some of the highest need students in terms of BSAP with the community partnership. So to me, that's something that's not acceptable. And he has to, as we move toward a more inclusive and community centered
Thank you, Mr. Flagg. Thank you so much. We will conclude with Mr. Brassfield.
Yes, the superintendent. I have to look at the superintendent, and I have to look at all the superintendents. And I'll say him right now, what is he doing? We just came back from a pandemic. I would say he hasn't had the full term to actually to do everything he can possibly do. I would say he made an impact as far as like trying to be there and trying to be seen for the students, a little different from our previous superintendent. Even though our previous superintendent used to have dinner with some of the students and some of the people that speak out in the community, some of the outreach people. So I look at the dynamics of everything. I think he's doing okay. I'm not in those meetings where he's getting reports out or anything like that. I see him on the news, see his face out there. My top priority is safety. I feel like that's something we can improve on, working with him, because I know I will be working with him for a little while or longer, depending on how everything transparency with the other 6 board members besides myself, 7 of us, right? I would say I would love to just talk to him, right? Because I haven't talked to him. I talked to other superintendents before. I never talked to him. And I can't really formulate an opinion about different dynamics because all dynamics goes through a bunch of channels within the district. But right now, I would say he's doing an okay job. My top priority is safety. And we had a stabbing at the school, right, in one of the districts. And I think we need to take care of those things.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brassfield. Our 4th question involves digital equity and the digital divide. Virtual learning left a lot to be desired, and return to school efforts have been disruptive. It also elevated the crude reality that too many households in Los Angeles lack access to quality, affordable, high-speed internet. How will you ensure that LAUSD provides permanent solutions to end digital discrimination and increase resources for digital equity in the region? Candidates will have 1 minute, 30 seconds to respond, and we will begin with Mr. Khalid Ali.
Thanks again. First and foremost, this is an area where we're going to really have to pull in some big heavyweight legislatures to get in there and deal with these internet companies. I have poor internet service in my home for the simple fact is because of the area that I live in. And, you know, we have students who are, and parents and communities that are subjected to this. But the simple fact is these carriers, you know, they divide up the communities and they charge what they feel. So that's first and foremost. From the time my kids were in elementary at Yes Academy, they're in high school right now, that's always, IT has always been an issue. So we need to upgrade the system, but we need to look at areas where we can bring in some folks who can actually pin down and hold accountable these internet service providers. Then we need to make sure that we make our maintenance and operations facilities get out there and do the maintenance and operations that needs to be done to ensure that that IT at our local school sites is working appropriately. And then lastly, community issues. Our libraries are overwhelmed and understaffed as well. So it's kind of hard for, you know, communities to use the libraries like they used to. And again, we need to make sure that our community-based memorandums of understanding focus on that issue where we can use our outside community-based organizations to give us that support and those safety nets for that.
Thank you so much. We'll move on with Dr. Didi Watts.
Yes, digital equity is important for all of our students. When I started, we knew that there was a challenge because we were visiting classrooms and students could not connect because of where they lived and the poor internet service. So our office, in collaboration with another office, wrote a resolution around digital equity. And we have been championing that. We have to continue our advocacy at the state and federal level. The district had the All Families Connected program, providing those internet services, not hotspots, but making sure families were hardwired so that they could access the internet services. We have to continue that advocacy because the district had a partnership, but we were also paying some of our funds for that. And so we have to continue that advocacy to make sure that we're changing the regulations so that those providers can't monopolize and charge fees that are going to be cost prohibitive for our families. But we really need to be thinking about access to internet as a right and something that all families should have. Because it becomes the haves and the have-nots when we don't look at it from an equity standpoint.
Thank you so much. Mr. John Brassfield.
Yeah, digital space and cyberspace technology, these are the things that these are essential, right, in the future. And being that we have so many bright minds within the district, advocacy on a state level and a national level will be, it'll be all our students writing a letter. It'll be all our parents writing a letter, right? Because you have to have that kind of feedback in order to get things done. So Spectrum's talking about canceling the act they're doing right now within the community. Now, how can the district help that? With us having close to, like the road maintenance has dropped. We got to fix that. Okay. So we used to, when I first did all my research, it was 700,000. Now I'm hearing 500,000, then I hear 600, and it keeps on going, right? So my thing is, we still are the second biggest district in the nation. Digital space and internet connection is a must, right? I have a bright way. I think of an idea every time somebody says something. And that's what, like, literally, that's what I think of. So I know how to get that done. Like, I can get that done. So on any level, we'll have internet if elected. And if not elected, I'll still support, because that's what I love to do. I love my students.
Great, thank you so much. Ms. Charlotte Newbill.
Thank you for the question. And so this digital divide, there has been work done, as mentioned, with the district providing, but also with County Supervisor Holly Mitchell. There's been over $56 million invested in the program to help the infrastructure, because that's part of the problem, that the infrastructure wouldn't withstand. They were provided internet services for many of our students, but yet they didn't even know that the services were being provided. I've asked the question because there's an event that takes place annually now by the county supervisor's office to address this said issue. And so many of it is that many of the families didn't even know that it was being provided. So again, our communication with our families have to be tightened. We have to make sure that they know that it's there to be provided, and then hold our elected officials to make sure that the motions that they're putting forward, the funding that they're putting into it, is actually being used to solve the problems in which we have, and making sure that those solutions are being heard across the board, across the district, and that we're actually using the services. Because once it's being provided, if it's not being used, quote unquote, it deems opportunity for it to be removed. And so we want to make sure that funding for programs that are already in existence, we're actually using, and making sure that those infrastructures are actually being fulfilled. So working closely with our elected officials is going to be a solution.
Thank you so much. And finally, Mr. Christian Flagg.
So I won't spend much time on it because other folks stated definitely need to do the state advocacy work, right? But beyond that, I say we leverage our position as a school district with such a big footprint to actually urge and negotiate better service with these different technology internet providers in the region, right? We are a big contract. So we have a certain level of power to negotiate better terms, better service for our surrounding communities. Another piece on that is to actually make a concerted effort to update and provide the modern technology, computers, computer labs to our high and highest need schools, right? There was just a $2 billion settlement that's coming from the state around this digital divide piece, where Community Coalition, along with a nonprofit organization in Oakland, actually pushed the state and said they did not adequately use dollars to serve the students that are hardest hit by the digital divide. So we must use those dollars to then actually service the people who need it the most. And this is stuff that stems from back even as far as 2011, when the federal government had to press the district around providing less services to our high and highest need students.
Thank you so much. Now we will have questions from LAUSD students and a parent. You have the floor. Do we have our ABC parent speaker available? Okay. I guess we will see if the students are
Ya voy
available.
a hablar, muchachos.
Okay.
Hola. Hola. ¿Me escuchan?
Sí.
Hola.
Ajá. Mi nombre es Carmen Gutiérrez. Yo soy del distrito 9 de el sur centro. Y mi hijo está en la escuela For Shea Learning Center del distrito 1. Y mi pregunta que tengo para ustedes es, ¿cómo implementará, ampliará y aprovechará los programas existentes como la doble inscripción para garantizar que los estudiantes no solo ingresen al colegio o universidad, sino también obtengan sus títulos?
Thank you so much. The candidates will be answering in the following order. Mr. Christian Flagg, Ms. Newbill, Mr. Al-Alim, Dr. Dee Watts, and then Mr. Brasfield. Mr. Flagg, you have the floor.
Yeah, so for this piece, I think it would be really good to, again, we could lean on our community partners to ensuring that our schools that have the dual enrollment programs and schools that focus on like English language supports are actually also equipped with community partners that do that long-term support. Right? They work with students starting early, starting in elementary, middle school, or even high school. But then they provide certain supports that go into higher education, right? So as they're supporting them with their academics, right, providing supports around the financial aid and the college application process, once they're into college, they're partnering them with students that are already in college, right, to their mentorship programs, to provide that access or just recognition that they can actually do it, right? Making sure that our young people in our communities who may not often have that exposure or may not see themselves in those spaces would have that direct connection with people who are doing it or have already done it.
Thank you so much. We will continue with Ms. Charlotte Newbill.
Yes, so to her question, this is actually a passion of mine because working with our Los Angeles Community Schools district will be key, because I think right now we're not exposing the opportunities of dual enrollment, that students can begin at 9th grade in order to be able to figure out what they want to do. But at the same time, they're getting skills towards a certification, along with getting a diploma. And so this goes to where I talk about pre-apprenticeships and apprenticeship programs that we need to expand through our community colleges. They're being funded. And if our students K through 12 use that exposure by going to field trips to community colleges, and then once they get into 9th grade, they can actually take classes. Now, this would get an opportunity for kids to find out whether they want to continue onto higher ed and use their college promise money, which has already been funded for them to get a higher ed degree, or just get a certification so they have valuable skills in order to work and expand our workforce, because that is what's going to be needed for our students and our families and communities. So that's very important to educate our families on the opportunities that are available for them, starting especially where they can practice in 9th grade.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khalid Ali.
Thanks for the
Gracias.
question. I'm sorry. Thanks for the question. Real quickly. First and foremost, we need to do what we need to do in order to break the school to prison pipeline. And that's make sure that our early education centers and our early education teachers have the support and resources to make sure that our students hit the first grade proficient, first and foremost. Secondly, by third grade, they need to have what is necessary in terms of their own personal identity. The fifth grade, the same way. By the time they get into middle school, these students need to make sure that they have an understanding and, most importantly, the exposure to a lot of what our community-based and our partnerships can provide. So as one of the engineers of the Black Student Achievement Plan, as one of those who hit the ground, pounding the pavement, making sure that our community schools initiative got moved forward. These two vehicles in and of itself can make sure that we can have that dual enrollment and make sure that it is effective for all our students, including immigrant families. But first and foremost, we need to make sure that we have a culturally relevant pedagogy or curriculum. We need to make sure that the supports and resources, and that includes our health and mental, mental wellness from universal pre-K all the way to high school.
Thank you so much. Dr. Didi Watts, you have the floor.
We already have a model set for our dual enrollment programs, and we see that with middle college at Southwest College, where students are able to graduate with their AA degrees. We need to expand those opportunities for students who are not attending that type of a school, right? So they can attend their school, and we expand that dual language program and work with our community partners who are doing the work to track students once they graduate from school. There are many programs, community partners, who really help to support our students beyond high school graduation to make sure that they are actually flourishing and get all the supports that they need while they are in and through college. So expand those community partners to work with our students, expand our existing dual language program by creating more models. And this is what I'm talking about when I say in our neighborhood schools, to make sure that students have access to those programs in their schools. And then also from the district side, creating alumni liaisons, and it's working within our college counseling program to make sure that we're following up with our scholars once they leave us to ensure that they are graduating from the Institute of Higher Learning.
Thank you so much. And finally, Mr. John Brasfield.
Yes. So dual language programs mean a lot to me. It means a chance to communicate diversely with multiple cultures, multiple people, but it also provides the opportunity to empower cultural-centric events, cultural-centric ideas within language. I feel is the next step. What we're moving into is education and also understanding each other better. We're in Babel right now, and we're understanding each other, right? So that's the main thing, understanding, because the better understanding we have of each other, it makes it for a better dynamic with education. So my main thing is to make sure that we're teaching early language at an early age. The younger, the better. Putting that in different programs. I worked at a few school sites that did Duolingo programs that empowered different languages at early ages. I feel that's beneficial to the community, all parents, and the future. So with that being said, I love the Duolingo program. I'll have policies written for that. I'll make sure that's an emphasis, and that's part of one of my top tier things that I have to get done. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now have a question from CIS LA student.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Alejandro Casillas. I am a sophomore at Alexander Hamilton High School. I am been a student 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 of communities in School of Los Angeles, CISLA, since sixth grade. CISLA is a nonprofit organization supporting students like me. I don't know if you can see the shirt. In 15 LAUSD schools with one-on-one academic support and community support resources. I was an English learner in EL from kindergarten and reclassified in third grade. And I now take honors English and take a poetry major. Being a student who took EL from kindergarten to third grade, I can say with experience that the EL program is highly flawed. About 48% of students in the LA Unified School District, LAUSD, fall under the category English learners, or EELs, meaning that they have either been classified as English learners or are students with emerging biliteracy skills. While overall high school graduations of LAUSD schools stands at 87.4%, the graduation rate for ELs is notably lower at 65.3%. And only 52.1% of ELs meeting the requirements of UC/CSU admissions compared to 65.2% of all graduating students. My question to you, board members, is given the importance of family engagement in student success, how do you propose to strengthen partnership with English learners, families, and communities to foster a supportive learning environment, both inside and outside of school?
Thank you so much, Alejandro. The candidates will once again have a minute 30 seconds to answer, and we'll begin with Ms. Charlotte Newville.
Thank you for that question. I think it starts with building a relationship with students like yourself, having that dialogue to know exactly what it is that students and communities are thriving for. You know, what is the thrive, making sure that we know how we can best support you, because if it is that, okay, there is a large number that wants to go to college and what is it that we're doing to prepare you for college is absent, then we need to know that. And so I think definitely having groups of students who have gone beyond the program to come back, our alums, to say, this is how the program helped and this is how the program did not help, so that we can fix and tweak and change the things so that we can make sure that we're servicing those appropriately. And so that is always done through councils, be it parent councils, student councils that are ongoing, so we can get those assessments and get that feedback and the data back, as you mentioned in your opening, so that we can make sure that those numbers are increasing in the way in which the families and the students want to go. And so we want to make sure that students are getting the tools that they need in order to be successful.
Thank you so much. Mr. Khalid Ali.
Yeah, that was an excellent question, Alejandro. And I love the shirt, man. And congratulations to you. I mean, that's a monumental achievement. So I'm proud of you. First and foremost, the community has to be more embracing of those immigrant families that that have a language barrier. That's first and foremost. And that's one of my jobs that I took on as a priority when I was a community council president, is to make sure that everyone in the community had a voice, at least sat at the table and was able to express their concerns. Number two, the standard English language learning and resolution that was created many, many years ago was put out there to address this type of issue. We need to revisit that. Superintendents have gone and come and have just allowed that to just languish as just a resolution and not a real impact and support and resources. And then lastly, as I said before, the assessment and evaluations come from when you have a culturally relevant pedagogy or a curriculum that engages these students and these families. When they learn about themselves, when they're given identity and the ability to express themselves in their own culture and express their own history, they're more engaged in the work that they do. And that's from gifted and talented special needs on. And then our adult education center is there to help the families who need that support outside the schools.
Thank you so much. Mr. Christian Flagg, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alejandro. You know, I'm a community organizer at heart. So one of my biggest values and belief is that of the people, right? The power of the people. We have to find opportunities and create opportunities to actually bring folks in from our English learner families, to actually hire them to actually be the ones driving the process to not only actively engaging and facilitating spaces for better parent and family engagement, but those to come in and actually support us in revisiting policies. The other piece is around transformation. We have to, around all of these things, actively go back and look through and methodically change policy, update policy to actually address things that we know have come to be, the challenges, the flaws, the gaps, right, over time, especially for things around culture, right? We know that has always been a devoid in our public school system. So we have to be very intentional in the ways we inject a much more culturally relevant approach to doing all of the things that we attempt to do. So just closing, bringing in the people and methodically transforming the policy.
Thank you so much. We will now move to Mr. John Brassfield.
So and congratulations, I want to say, Alejandro, and I love Hamilton. I was there for a stunt period. I worked there for a little, so I know that school, an amazing school. But moving forward, I would say making sure we have all the resources that we need. We talk about providing opportunities for people in the community, translators, hiring translators, and that's their only job to do. I feel like that creates a whole different dynamic. And then also working with the teachers, empowering staff to get career preparations for people in the community through those programs. And then I like what Mrs. Watts said earlier, Dr. Watts said earlier, about working in the community colleges. I worked at West LA Community College as well. So Hamilton actually uses the community college system but some other schools don't. I know Dorsey does too as well, and some other schools too as well. And I know some middle schools that use that too as well. So the difference in a lot of different, I would say, clusters of school systems we have to make sure they're updated with all that information. And we got to provide opportunities to all our students, make sure all our parents are aware. And the main thing is translation, understanding. And I feel like breaking out a landscape will help everybody and make it cookie cutter, and then we'll dissect everything.
Thank you so much. And finally, Dr. Didi Watts.
Alejandro, thank you for sharing your experience. One of the first things that we need to do is to hear the student experience, because we need to be grounded in students at the center to hear their experiences and look at the data. What does the data tell us? And how does that compare to what our students are telling us, right? That gives us an opportunity to then review our policies, to make sure that, again, we are using an equity lens when we are creating programs to support students. We also have to make sure that we're working with the multicultural, multilingual department to ensure that as we are reviewing the policies that are grounded in the community, that in the students' experiences, that we are making changes that are going to be better for the students in the end. whenever we decide, okay, now we're going to revise this policy, we have to take it back to the community through a community conversation or a listening session so that we can gather more stories and get their feedback to make sure that, again, our policy is going to be supporting the students, because one of our goals is to get students through school and into college if that's what they choose. And we can't do that if there's a barrier for them reclassifying.
Thank you so much. We will now have our next question from a community coalition student.
Hello, my name is Emily Vasquez. I'm a sophomore at Washington Prep. I'm a community coalition youth leader. I've been in LAUSD all my life and in District Board 1 schools. I would like to personally thank the future candidates and board members for being here today and letting me know you guys as people and what you care about. I believe that our future board members should take into consideration on how long students of color like me have been speaking to the current board members and how current members are not understanding the issues within the district. So dear future board members, how do you stand on defunding the police and fully funding alternatives to safety like BSAP, an issue that critically affects District 1 students?
Thank you so much, Emily. Candidates will have 1 minute, 30 seconds once again to respond, starting with Mr. John Brassfield.
So thank you for that wonderful question, Emily. What I would do to make sure everything is taken care of, I would listen, because I do some counseling first, right? I'll listen to everybody talking about, and I heard some of the I watched some of the board meetings already, and my main thing is safety. So I listened to the defund the police. I've been to some of those marches. I talked to some of the police officers too. Been on some of the police meetings. Safety is my main thing. I've been on campuses where I thought they didn't need an officer. I've been on campuses where I thought they needed an officer. So those are big issues we have to talk about. I feel the more respect we have for each other, and like I was talking about earlier, it was a stabbing on one of the district campuses, and it was a melee. Those things have to be talked about. I feel like we need to have community leaders inside the community, community empowerment angels or security that can talk to people and know how to de-escalate situations. So my main thing is de-escalation. And I will talk about that and talking about cultural realism with different people, because different cultures do different things, and we have to understand dynamics. So within the system, within the community, within different barometers of education, is different development. Certain times of the year, you need more time for this, you need more time for this. And showing people how to use different mindful techniques will be my thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brassfield. We will move on with Mr. Khalid Ali.
I have been down with police-free schools and getting rid of the criminalization of our students for over 20 years. This is a major problem. And so it would be nothing for me to be sitting on that board and making sure that that $68 million budget goes towards psychiatric social workers, full-time school nurse, putting Black men in mathematics and other subjects in the front of the classroom, a cultural relevant pedagogy for all our students so they can have the opportunity to express themselves and their creativity and their ingenuity, because I believe that schools, public schools, are institutions for incubation of creativity and arts, music, sciences, research. That's what they're for. There are not many correctional facilities. The overemphasizing of law enforcement on our campus is a major distraction, and it's traumatizing, especially given what's been going on in the community with police brutality. I am not with police being on campus or them being used as a disciplinary measure. We have other alternatives.
Thank you so much. Dr. Dee Watts, you have the floor.
Emily, thank you for the question. I believe that if we are to defund the police, there are things that we have to put in place before anything like that could occur. One, I would be completely committed to mandatory de-escalation training of all staff in all of our district schools, because we have to be able to speak the same language when we are trying to create a different environment on campus for our students, one in which our students feel safe. Additionally, we have to provide education on the role of school police. They are not there for students. They should not be there for students, which is why they shouldn't be on our campuses. But they do have a role per the California Ed Code. And as a former principal, I understand that there will be times when we will have to bring in the police. And I would rather have it be school police than municipal police. But with school police outside of our campuses and patrolling the perimeter, I believe that we can create alternatives to that. And that's what we're working on through community-based safety, which our office authored that resolution. I believe that once we are at a place where we are fully implementing community-based strategies for safety, then we can have a further discussion, but it would be a phased out approach for school police.
Thank you so much. Mr. Christian Flagg?
Yeah, so this has been at the heart of my work for many years now, where working in community, we've been developing, working with community, what is actually a safe school. And we know time and time again, our community does not call out police as safety. So my work would be around the systematic and methodical development of a alternative department, right? We have to have a comprehensive approach to bringing safety and ensuring safety on our school campuses. But we do that by ensuring we have a different type of person, different people, teams of people, right, that are trained in prevention, intervention, de-escalation, restorative justice. We have safe passage programs, all facilitated by specially and highly trained people, most of which would actually be from our community, that understands the nuance between our different cultures and the community politics, folks that are connected, who have that insight into the different incidences and things that are going on in the community to be able to intervene with a deeper level of empathy and understanding. So all of that to say, we absolutely will be working to defund the police, to create an alternative rooted in the community vision for safe schools.
Thank you so much. And finally, Ms. Charlotte Newville.
Hi, the question as far as defunding the police, I don't think that's the solution. I think they're not one and the same. And our district is broad. We cover a mass area, 3 different community or council districts. And so with that being said, I think it's a community initiative approach for safety for our schools, and whether school resource officer, if we want to call it, because school police, was created to help mitigate fights and when desegregation began. And so they're there to help protect our schools, to help protect our services as teachers, but then they're also there to make sure that in the event of things that happened, 1999, Columbine, things of that nature, who would we call? And so with our school resource officers, whatever term we want to use them, that narrative, the name, we need to work with them to help provide safe campuses and community together. All stakeholders with a voice saying, yes, this is what we need. No, this is not what we need. Our community doesn't need that. Our community works fine with this, this, and this, and giving them that option. But to eliminate them altogether, I don't think that's the solution. And so as a result, I think we need to work together to make sure that we're providing safety community by community.
Thank you so much. We will now shift to audience questions that have been submitted. And as stated before, we will get to as many as we can. Our first question is about equitable funding. In 2014, LAUSD co-created the Student Equity Need Index, also known as SENI, and the district now allocates $700 million to school based on their level of need. In Board District 1, over 60% of the schools you would represent are considered high needs. If tough decisions need to be made, such as budget cuts, would you prioritize the high need schools to protect them as defined in the SENI? And if so, how? Candidates will be given a minute, 30 seconds to answer, beginning with Mr. Khalid Ali. So you're muted.
Is it okay? Thank you for that question again. And so it's always been a problem of how much do we need to make sure that we have an equal opportunity across the board, universal academic achievement performance. And it's just not going to happen because each school has its own unique challenges. And so the thought of equity should not rest on how much money someone gets across the board. It should be the opportunity and access with the funding that they have to be able to move the needle higher and higher on the standard of academic achievement progress chart. So I'm not for one really to say, hey, you need this much money or you need that much money in order to be able to be a high achieving school or move from the low achieving to the mid or to the higher achieving schools. Each school has its own unique identity. And I think that we need to address that school and that community in terms of what is needed, the resources and the supports so that the proper funding gets there first. Sometimes, many times, it's insufficient and we think it's a lot of money, but it's not. So we need some CPAs, we need some people in the county, we need oversight and transparency to make sure that the money is doing what it's supposed to do right now.
Thank you so much. Ms. Charlotte Newville, you have the floor.
So as far as protecting our highest needs, I think that is critical. We need to protect the students that are most vulnerable. And if that means stabilizing their leadership, stabilizing certain funding for tutoring programs to make sure that we see the band jumps within reading, math, the programs that have been data-driven, and we've seen the results of those programs working. Those programs need to remain in those schools. To remove those programs and disenfranchise those students even further would not be beneficial. And so it's very important to make sure that, and we've created this model time and time within the district, calling it different names. And so now we have our priority schools. And those schools are priority schools for various different benchmarks. And because of that, we need to make sure that the leadership is stable, that the programs that have shown statistical data improvements are being used in those environments, and then continue to check and recheck to make sure that those programs continue to produce what we want to see in achievement, as well as social emotional learning, as well as safety.
Thank you so much. Mr. Christian Flagg, you have the floor.
So yes, I would absolutely make sure that we protect schools with the high and highest need students, or in the high and highest need communities. In fact, I was a part of a lot of the work that and advocacy that urged and pushed the district to invest this additional $700 million into the Student Equity Needs Index. And in terms of protecting them, we have to look at the numbers. We have to look at the data, right? If the problems that initiated this extra need, these extra dollars to make sure we have additional supports and resources in place, has not yet impacted the actual student outcomes, then we have to maintain and persist in how much funding that we're ensuring is available to the schools, right? With that, though, we can look at the strategies and revisit how we're ensuring that these dollars are actually being used to support the high and highest need students. And I think what's critical is the distinction with the Student Equity Needs Index is it takes into account community factors, right? The schools are within a community. So it's not only the student factors, student outcomes, but where are these young people coming from? And are we providing resources that will actually be able to meet and support based on those external conditions as well?
Thank you so much. I will pass the floor to Dr. Didi Watts.
Yes, we do have to continue to prioritize our city schools. If and when we do that, we also have to make sure that we're having those difficult conversations because, again, it's about equity. It's about making sure that the students who have been historically underserved and are in these high needs communities are receiving the supports and services that they need. So working with the community and working with the school to ensure that they are fully staffed and receiving all the services and supports that they need so that the monies that they are receiving are being actualized for the students who are there at the time. I think that would be important, but we have to engage in these very difficult discussions because when money is cut, when funds are short, we have to be able to look at those trade-offs and say, because we are going to continue to fund Cine, we are not going to be able to fund something else. And we have to have those real conversations about what that something else is. For us, many of our Cine schools are also priority schools and BSAP schools and community schools. And so really we're looking at what are the schools that are going to receive less because we are going to be committed to ensuring that our high need schools continue to receive the services and supports so that those students can thrive.
Thank you so much. And we will conclude with Mr. John Brasfield.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. All our students are important. Every school is important. Every entity within the district is important. So the dynamics within the district needs to be maneuvered through a bunch of different eyes. Career planning is what we need more of within the district. Counselors do a good job of that. Making sure students are actively engaged in the lesson or actively engaged in learning what they want to be in their life is amazing, right? But how many students leave school knowing that? Now we have to do that number. They have a statistically shown, I've seen that too as well, but some students go to college. They still haven't picked out their career, right? So it's all kind of different. And I can come up with my own survey, right? I know that. And I looked at the data and I looked at the stats, but now it's like, are they community prepared to help? And are they well taken care of to produce? So providing different internships, what we do within the district, but more opportunities. And those places that are low achieving, they say, find out what's going to motivate them. Because end of the day, is every student is important and the staff is important. So we have to make sure the staff is up too and the staff is happy. And we have to make sure the parents is happy and community engagement is what we'll do.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, we are running out of time. So in the interest of time, we will move on. But I will say that we do have more questions and we will be sure to share those questions with the candidates directly so that they will know what the audience members are asking. Now we will move to closing remarks. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to provide closing remarks. This round will begin with Dr. Didi Watts.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening to hear from the candidates. Again, I'm Dr. Dee Watts, and my experience has spanned over 27 years as a teacher, school psychologist, special ed administrator, school site principal, nonprofit leader, nonprofit founder, and current chief of staff to a board member. And I'm passionate about ensuring that students who have been historically underserved receive the services and supports that they need, that our students with special needs receive the services and supports that they need, and that we build career pathways to ensure that we have the bodies in place to make sure that those students are receiving the services and supports, and that we authentically engage families so that they are part of the decision-making process within the district. And then additionally, making sure that our career pathways are set up, because we want to make sure that students are both college and career ready. And so we have to invest in ensuring that they have the support in choosing a career. And then finally, ensuring that families and staff have affordable housing options, and making sure that those affordable housing options are within Los Angeles. So it means that as a district, even though we aren't in the housing business, we have to work and think creatively, work with our local city and county partners to make sure that we're able to add to that affordable housing support for our families and our students in order for them to be able to thrive. As I said, I'm running to make sure that my 2-year-old granddaughter is able to attend her neighborhood school and get a great education. And so I hope that when you go to the polls to think about your next board member for Board District 1, that you will check the box for Dr. Dee Watts. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Now, Ms. Charlotte Newbill.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity tonight to be able to share my perspective, to bring my experience before you as a 25-year-old veteran educator who has served in various capacities at the school site, as a coach, as a teacher, a department chair, as someone who's been with UTLA's union vice chair for 17 years, as an athletic director, as a dean of students, and now an education policy advisor. What sets me apart, not just the breadth of the wealth of information that I come from, but those that have supported me along this journey, I think is notable to say, because it's important that this is not done alone. And as a coach, I know the importance of teamwork, and I've gotten that from those that have endorsed my candidacy along this race. And that's with the LA County Democrat Party unanimously chose me as their candidate, along with Dr. McKenna, who is the current board member now, and not to mention the president of the board, Dr. Jackie Goldberg, as well as Scott Schmerelson, but also Councilwoman Heather Hutt, Imelda Padilla, Lola Smallwood-Crevice as a senator, Tina McKenna, Mike Gibson, Diane Radovich, who is known within the community of education, has also said she's the candidate to choose, as well as parents supporting teachers. And because of the investment and just the thought process going into this, it is unanimously as a choice by the community and prepared, ready day one to do the work to fight not only for my kids, but for all students. And so it's with great honor I stand before you as a candidate for Board District 1, ready to fight for our students, ready to fight for my students, and at least to be able to say, as a candidate endorsed by the Los Angeles Times paper and the Sentinel. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Mr. Christian Flagg, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I'd like to close by saying that I truly believe that our education system should not only prepare our students to thrive as individuals in society, but actually be equipped to transform it, to make it better, to improve it. And for far too long, our public school system has not done that, and particularly has not done that for our Black and Brown communities across District 1 or across LAUSD. Similarly, we're coming into a time where there's a lot of challenges around funding, educational funding at the state level, the federal level, and even at the local level. So we're going to need somebody who is going to champion and not be afraid to stand up and say, we absolutely have to stay committed to equity for our communities of high and highest need. And we have to remain committed to initiatives like the Black Student Achievement Plan. 4 years ago, before we started this work, while there was a long history of community partners fighting to ensure equity in our school district, folks in the district were scared to explicitly say Black students need help. Black students need help. They are at or among the bottom in all these categories you want to measure, right? It is that work that I'm going to continue and carry and ensure that we start shifting the culture within the district, and more importantly, shift the policies, right, that actually mandate and guide the way in which we practice and support our young people in our schools. We have to prioritize the environment, the social, emotional, and the cultural development to ensure our young people are truly the future.
Thank you so much. Mr. John Brassfield.
I just want to start with saying thank you to everybody for being out here tonight and coming on the platform. And then what I want to leave everybody with is that I grew up in LAUSD. When you think about how long I've been in USD, it's almost 4 decades. I had a chance to see a lot of different things within LAUSD. I know how to get things done a little bit faster. I ran against the current board member, Dr. McKenna. I studied his stuff, watched his movies, all that good stuff. And what I'll say is, I studied Jackie Goldberg too as well. I went when she got elected, and I got a chance to see both of them in action and what they stand for, and I like that. And then now I look at where we're at right now, and I look at the students that been left in the dark. The Black Student Achievement Plan, I'm with all that. I know how to get students motivated. That's one of the things I do. I know how to get them engaged. I think the district needs somebody to get people engaged. Endorsements, I know everybody. So that's easy for me. I can call somebody right now and get things done within the position when I have that position. So my thing is that understanding dynamics and understanding the landscape of the district, I move deeply. I have connections in other districts besides District 1. I'm very known. I have a connection with the Black College Expo. I would love to get people engaged. Also, the Hispanic School Board, they have their stuff too as well. And they have the colleges too as well. So now I need to become more in tune with the Asian community, because I go in dynamics, right? And I have to understand all communities. I have every sector that I've been working on, and I've already been working on the community with the African-American community, and I can't wait to have that opportunity.
Thank you so much. And finally, Mr. Khalid Ali.
Thank you, everybody. And I really want to extend much respect and love to my colleagues out there who are also running. I mean, this is a tough job. It's a lot of things that we need to take care of because, you know, basically LAUSD right now is a hot mess. And our communities are not doing so much better. And they could do a lot better if our public schools had the supports and resources to make that happen. I'm a 20-year veteran of the community. Ever since my kids started going to LAUSD schools, I've been right there with the school site councils, the parent advisory committees, 15 years on the community council board as a president, negotiating community development and revitalization, working with nonprofit organizations and other community-based organizations to help strengthen and create those supports and resources necessary to make a holistic strategic plan for our communities. Students' health and welfare is my priority. Families are my priority. I want to make sure that everybody has a chance with the funding we have and the funding that will continue to come to make sure that there are opportunities and access for all our students. And I just want to say lastly, in terms of endorsements, I mean, this is my first time running for a political office, and I've seen a hodgepodge of endorsements here and there. But I'm proud to say that I am the teacher's choice. I helped to create the Black Student Achievement Plan. I helped to push the Community Schools Initiative. So I'm not for play with all this nonsense about, we don't have this, or, there's budget cuts coming down the line, or we got overblown budgets for one aspect of a area in LAUSD, but we can't seem to get our psychiatric nurses and our adult education in the mix, or we can't help supplant the work that our early education centers need. KhalidForSchoolBoard.com. Go to that website and learn a lot more about my platform. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us tonight for this important discussion. We are a little bit over time, and thank you for giving us some grace and sticking with us. We are deeply appreciative of our fine candidates who made the time to be with us this evening. As we've heard this evening, LAUSD is responsible for serving 420,000 students, the majority of whom are children needing extra resources, support, and a loving learning environment. There's a lot of weight on the shoulders of LAUSD's leadership, from the superintendent and board down to school principals and school staff, to work with the community and implement the best solutions possible. We know that your job is not easy, but we ask that you open the door to community partners, parents, caregivers, and students when making funding and policy decisions. To our audience, please remember to vote. You should have received your mail-in ballot. You may return those as soon as possible. Please remember they must be postmarked by 8 p.m. on Election Day, Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. There are also 400 plus convenient and secure ballot drop boxes located and open and available to voters throughout the county. You may also vote at the nearest LA County Voting Center near you. You may find those online at the LA County Registrar's page at lavote.gov. That's LAVOTE.gov. We will also host 2 more forums. Board District 5 on Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, from 6 to 8 p.m. and Board District 7 on Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, also 6 to 8 p.m. We hope to see you there. Thank you for joining us, and have a blessed night.
Candidates, you are excused. Thank you so much for your time and for your thoughtful responses and for being here with us this evening. We will make sure we share with you a copy of the recording, but more than anything, we really appreciate you all for being with us and being a part of this forum. Have a good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
Night,
Thank you for your
Sean.
time. I appreciate you.
For the planning team, we'll stick around a bit and debrief.
Yeah, we're just waiting for folks to log off and then we will debrief. As in